The tenacity, the drive, the like ritualistic, just going to school and not giving up is a whole thing in and of itself. Just not giving up, pursuing something, finishing something. Those things are huge when it comes to the real world. School is hard sometimes, right? Things just happen. And for you to just not give up and say, you know what, I'm going to finish this thing and keep going, oof, that by itself will put you in a different level. And I think that's really what separates the people that go to college or maybe advanced degrees versus just not going to college. I don't think they're any different. I just think that it's another way of learning.
Good evening. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome to another episode of the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Melissa T, the procrastination bully. And today I'll be interviewing Amalia Delamora, who is the author of an adorable book called Vanessa and Me, A Grandfather for Everyone. I believe that's the title of the book, but she'll give you the exact title for sure during the interview, and you get to see it as well. This is a two-parter, so come back next week for the latter half of the interview. But just know that in the latter part, you will see the book and you'll be able to see the book cover as well. You'll be able to take a look at the artwork and everything. But yeah, in this interview, we get into not only the brass tacks of how she developed her book, but also the way she navigated that process. Amalia is someone who navigated a major transition. She unfortunately lost her grandfather. However, she was able to find healing through the process of writing and publishing the children's book that was dedicated to him. So enjoy this two-part interview, and of course, starting with part one this week. Make sure to take notes because, of course, our show, we always drop gems between myself and my guests. So enjoy the interview. Good evening and welcome, my winners and goal getters. As promised, I have the one and only Amalia Delamora. Welcome to the Getting the Win Show, Amalia. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, thanks for being available. I appreciate you. So yours is a very interesting life. This is the reason I wanted to bring you on.
That's funny. Oh dear.
No, nothing negative at all. I say interesting because you are actually very reflective of a lot of the ladies that listen to this podcast. Like you're a mom, you're in the process of school, like you're pursuing a degree and you're an entrepreneur at the same time. And you kind of have a job too. Like you're juggling a lot. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. And what I love about you is even in the midst of all of that, you still managed to carve out time to be an author. Like you are an author of a children's book. So I would love to get into that, of course, a little bit later. But first, let our audience know about you, your educational pursuits, what your specialty is, like what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, where do we begin? I think a lot of times we're trained to say, this is what I do in life.
Yeah.
And so I always used to start with like, I do this, and that. But I think it's important to say, this is who I am and this is how I got here. So, first and foremost, obviously, like my parents are immigrants, so I have an immigrant sort of work ethic, so to speak. I always feel like I had to be doing something at all times, right? That's kind of the way I grew up. So that kind of threw me into the multiple things. I had children really young. So I actually have a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old right now. So I've kind of already gone through the young phases, but I've been going to school and working the whole time. So to me, going to school and working at the same time has just become a way of my life. I've been doing it for so many years. And I'm in an advanced degree program. I'm currently working on my doctorate degree for educational leadership. So I got a couple more years and everyone keeps asking me when I'm done. And I keep telling them it takes a while. Give me a minute. So there's that piece. I teach at the local university as an adjunct professor. And I wrote a book a couple years ago about my grandpa. So that was really fun.
Wow. Yeah. So like I said, interesting, like for you listening and watching. Very, very interesting. Very briefly, talk to me a little bit about what course are you teaching in terms of being an
Sure.
adjunct professor?
Yeah, that's been actually probably one of the funnest things I've had. I said in a text message to someone recently, this is probably one of the greatest opportunities of my life. I've been teaching a 300 and a 100 level class,
Oh,
and they are pursuing educators right now. So I've already been a teacher, I've been a paraeducator, I've been a principal in my life, and I'm pursuing the superintendency. So to come back and teach people who want to become teachers is just so heartwarming for me because I just feel like they're so young and new and refreshing and it gives me new life too, right? I love it. Honestly, it's been such a wonderful experience for me.
that's awesome. Yeah, let's get into that. Talk about what inspires that drive in you to want to pour into people, to want to
Mhm.
help people, you know, see
Yeah.
the light bulb come on in them. Was that something that was instilled in you by your family, or was that something that you kind of naturally uncovered over the course of your life? Like I have an affinity for this and I really enjoy it. Kind of talk to us about how you came across that.
Yeah, I think I always knew I was like a helper in school, in class. I always knew that I wanted to help people. And I've taken time through my leadership courses to really delve into why I want to do this because you can't just show up at a graduate level course because it pushes you. So I've been learning about what makes me want to do this, right? And one of the things I've uncovered is yes, my parents. I've always wanted to make my parents proud, right? Um, but I also have children. So I think about my legacy also. What do I want my kids to see about me? So I always think of it twofold. Like, I want to make my parents proud up here. And then I also want my kids to be proud of me too. And I want them to continue to push forward. So I think that helps me when I meet others. I have a thing, people just naturally want to like, I don't know, let's go get coffee, or it's like younger versions of me, right? I think I'm drawn to them and they are also drawn to me. So I find that I want to kind of give them what I had to learn in the hard way, right? So I had to go to work. I had to go to school. I had some really good professors, for example, that just kind of helped me through that. And I would like to be that for other people as well in many areas of my life. So it's just like, oh, it feels natural. And I just, I want to make it easier, I guess, for the next generation of the me's of the world. Right. And so, yeah, I think that's what it is.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, we in the same boat, like child of immigrants, you know what I mean? Were you born in the US or did you
Mhm.
come with your
I was
family?
born and raised here in the same small town, so I've never moved. That's the other piece is it's just I'm so
Wow.
like I love my community because I just know how it is to be here and to do this stuff. And so when I see, especially these younger ones that are just kind of starting college and they kind of don't know what they're doing, I'm like, oh, I've been there before. I know what you might need, and so I try to do those things.
So like where in the US are you?
So I live in Washington State, right, which is
Gotcha.
Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
And as
Yep.
I've traveled more, I realize I'm really Pacific Northwesty, right? Like we like the outdoors. I like to
Yeah.
make my own bread and my own food. I love it. I love it. My yard is important to me. I like to get outside and just, all the things you can think of. But also, I live in a very small region that has a lot of migrants. So when my parents
Mm,
arrived here in the late 70s, early 80s. They just
okay.
kind of settled. And there's just a lot of farming community here. So we don't have a ton of diversity. You're either the farm owner or the farm worker. Yeah. And that
Yep.
has its own nuances. So I know that education is the great equalizer in this world. I know that. I've seen it. I've lived it. And that's what I think pushes me with education too, is I know that that can take
Mm,
people to another level, right, in their lives. And so that's what I want for other people too.
yeah. I can understand that. That's a common thing among Caribbean families as well, African families, Asian families. Like education is the priority. Like when they're raising their kids, like put your head in them books, make sure you make all the A's so you can really come out and carve a future better than even what we did. You know what I mean? Like build off of our shoulders. So I get it. Like I totally understand and appreciate the work that you do. Go ahead. You're going to
Yeah,
say something.
no, I share this often, but my dad never even got to go to school. So his big thing for us, I have a brother and a sister, and all of us have graduated from college. And yeah, thanks. But, I think that was a big driver for us. My dad always said, you're so fortunate to get to go to school in this country. I never got to go. So don't waste that. Don't throw that away. And, when you're younger, you're like, well, who cares? But as I've gotten older, my dad was so right, and how much wisdom did he have knowing that that was going to make a difference and he didn't even get to go. Like that yearning always stayed with us.
For sure, for sure. Just out of curiosity, because one of the prevailing lines of thought with the college thing is, well, like you don't technically have to go in order to get to where you want to get to. But I want to ask you a question from a different perspective. Were there some skills or lessons that you learned in college that you apply now in your life as a full-fledged adult, full-fledged mom career, like that you may not have learned outside of academia? Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's what college is about. It's silly because everyone thinks, what am I going to go study about? What am I going to go to school for? What kind of career do I want? But honestly, I think the tenacity, the drive, the like ritualistic, just going to school and not giving up is like a whole thing in and of itself, right? Just not giving up, pursuing something, finishing something. Those things are huge when it comes to the real world, right? Not giving up and doing something that's hard. School is hard sometimes, right? School is hard. Some classes are hard. Some teachers are mean. Things just happen. And for you to just not give up and say, you know what? I'm going to finish this thing and keep going. Oof, that by itself will put you in a different level. And I think that's really what separates the people that go to college or maybe advanced degrees versus just not going to college. I don't think they're any different. I just think that it's another way of learning.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah, it's another way of learning, and it's the other element about college that some may miss. Not everybody, but another element that college does tend to provide is socialization. Like people tend to miss that part, but yeah, socialization is because you're essentially thrust into that environment. Even if you are an introvert, somebody that prefers to just, you know what I mean? You have to, you meet your classmates and you have to work on group projects at the very least. Even if you're not involved in the extracurricular stuff, at the very least, you're working with your classmates on group projects that determine whether or not you pass the class. Like you don't have a choice but to socialize. You know what I mean?
What's funny is that's what I've been telling my current college students. Because especially what I noticed, this was really interesting for me. I taught middle school for several years right before the pandemic. And then I became a principal. So I was kind of outside of the classroom. I'm back in a classroom now, post pandemic, now post K-12, which is very different for me. But you know what? People are people and they're the same no matter what. No matter what age we are, this stuff is the same. And I noticed that a lot of my older students are not as social. They don't socialize even within the classroom. So one of the things that I really pushed on them this quarter was, you're going to have to group work with me right now. You're going to have to go sit with somebody. You're going to have to go do something. And I'd say, please don't hate me, but I promise this is going to be good for you. Because when you go get a job or when you have to go to work or when you have to do these things, you have to know how to work with people. And if you're going to go into education, let me tell you, you're going to work in groups for the rest of your life. So you better get used to it, that you're going to need it, man.
Yeah. And especially in education, you can't really afford to be antisocial in education because some may go into elementary school, like the K-12 thing. Some may go into, even at the collegiate level, like you still have to interact with.
You have to work with colleagues. You're going to have to learn that your brain isn't the smartest brain in the room and that your colleagues all have different things to offer you. So get used to asking for feedback, get used to learning from other people, and don't ever think you're the smartest person in the room. Because even if you are smart, there's so much more you can learn from others. So don't do that early on.
100%. Plus, if you are the smartest person in the room, the common knowledge is you're in the wrong room because you're not going to grow at that point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. That was interesting for me to see how I just assumed that they're in college, right? They're ready to do, and no, they were not. I mean, they're young college, fresh, kind of new out of high school. And that whole, I just want to work by myself mentality is still there.
Wow. Were you able to, I'd love to dig a little further into
Yeah.
this. Were you able to discover or unpack why that is? Was it a result of perhaps past hurts or um, just perhaps something at home? Was it social hurt? Was it hurt from home? Like, were you able to unpack some of that sometimes?
Well, I think I'm in a unique position because I have children this age, right?
Hmm.
So I have a 21-year-old who's in the same, mindset, who I watched her grow up. I know exactly what happened. She doesn't live here. She lives in California, but
Hmm.
I'm in a classroom with 30 of them, 30 of my own kind of children, right? So I think the unique piece for me is being able to recognize what maybe at home or pandemic or however those things played out. Now they're in a classroom, and part of my job is to help bring them back into what I kept saying was your future is children, right? If you're going
Yeah,
into teaching, your future is to teach younger children how to socialize. So, how can you teach them to socialize if you don't know how to socialize?
that part.
You know, how
That,
can you
yeah,
teach them to work with someone and forgive a colleague or a friend or a partner, whatever that looks like, if you haven't done that yet? How do you teach them to work
absolutely.
in groups if you don't work in groups? So,
Exactly.
that was kind of the angle I took, and I got a little bit of like at first, but over time it was nice. You don't push too hard. You make them just work with another person. You don't make them work with the big group. Every once in a
Right.
while, you do a little bit of this, and then you come back. It's okay, little bit.
That's awesome. And just out of curiosity, as you're gradually like microdosing that social experience, are you pulling from your personal life experience as well? Like in terms of your connection with your family, your friendships, that kind of thing?
The very first thing I did was introduce myself as, look, this is who I am. This is my education experience. I've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm a lot like you. I went to work every day. I go to work every day. I come in and I'm here. I know it's late. Sometimes we'd get out, at 9:15 was the end of one of my classes. I said, I know it
Wow.
takes a different person. Yeah. And I said, I know that on a Wednesday night, if you're here with me at 9:15 p.m. on a Wednesday night, um, we're similar, right? You have other things that are your priority, and this matters to you, and you're doing your best. And so I'm going to work with you because I understand what that feels like. So let's talk about late assignments. Let's talk about, yeah, do you understand? Do you have time? All these things. So they all have my cell phone numbers. I mean, I probably took it a little bit further, but a really important piece for me was for them to like keep going. This one
Yeah,
class matters, but not that much, right? So don't freak out. Let's work together. If you don't get it, reach out, and let's get to the next quarter or the next semester or whatever that needs to look like for you.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I'm going to pivot a little bit and I want to talk about your children's book. So what inspired it? What's the book about? And yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, that was really personal. I think because I've always loved children's literature, I have all these like second grade books here that I kept. They're my personal collection. But the teaching piece, right? And the kids and picture books, that's always been great. And I love to read. I actually lost my grandfather right at the beginning of the pandemic as I was transitioning into the principalship. And it was all new for me, right? So pandemic was new. I was leading a school during the pandemic that was really hard and stressful. I was new to the job. There were a lot of challenges going on, and I also lost my grandfather at the same time. And I had been his caregiver for the last like 7 years, so I was very close to him. And I just kind of packed that all in a little ball and like put it away because I had work to do, right? So over the next couple of years, I didn't know how to kind of unpack the grieving process for myself. And just sometimes I would keep notes that I wanted to remember about him because I just didn't want to forget him, right? And actually, see, that's his hat right there up in the back. I try to keep him close to me, right? And he had funny stories or little things that I would keep, and I just kept a running record of little things I didn't want to forget because I felt like his memory was going to just maybe not be remembered, or I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I didn't want to forget him. And one day I thought I could write a children's book about him, maybe our story, right? A good friendship. That would be cool. And over the next, it took me probably 2 years, little by little, because I just kind of did it as a passion project. It wasn't meant for anything other than keeping his memory alive for me. And yeah, that came from that.
That's beautiful. So yeah, let's definitely unpack that process. I love it. Like you didn't assign an ambitious deadline. This was just something you were doing.
Mhm.
And this speaks to the legacy piece because there from time to time on the show I talk about that. Like some people, they're not necessarily trying to get on a bestseller list. Like they have a purpose like yours, which is to preserve something, whether
Mhm.
it's the memory of a person, in your case, like your grandpa, or to preserve sometimes family tradition, like, you know, how recipes will get passed down from generation to
Yeah.
generation, stuff like that. So I love that yours was from a perspective of preservation, like legacy. Like this is grandpa and I want to make sure he's never forgotten.
Ever. Yeah,
So
that was a big
yeah,
piece for me.
yeah. So talk about, were you telling it like recording stories? Were you typing? Like how did you create the book itself?
That was interesting too, because remember, I'm a busy girl. So
Yeah.
and I was going through some pretty deep heartache, I think, at the time. I also got a divorce in between all that. So I was really probably the most hurting I've ever been because I realized what I missed from him was just being able to just, go see him. He didn't need a whole lot. He was a very simple man. And I felt like that was important for like my kids and for people within my own family to kind of keep. I always try to figure out how does that work with me? I'm so different, right? That makes no sense. So I thought about him a lot, but I thought about him when I was really sad or it was late at night or those kind of sad times. And I had a lot of sad times. So what I did was I started keeping a voice memo on my phone when I just would start to come up with stories or things that anything that I thought of. I found myself doing it when I was really sad, and it was always in a random time. So just kind of keep it on my phone. It was the only way I could keep notes. I didn't have a pen and paper, and it was usually pretty raw and emotional. So I kept this huge running list of notes on my phone. That's how I basically wrote the book.
That's great. And I'm glad you shared that because sometimes the biggest obstacle for an aspiring author is their time. Like they might be super busy like you. So I love that you were able to just record like, hey, I got these 2 minutes. I
Mhm.
got five. Let me just say something real quick. I'm in my car. Let me
It
record
was it
something
was in
real
my
quick.
car or like late at night in my bed, but it was a lot of in my car.
Yeah. Yeah, people underestimate the power of what you can do even during a commute. Like you have to make the commute anyway. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. And it's a nice quiet alone time. I think people don't realize that.
exactly, exactly. It can be very meditative depending on where you're driving, obviously.
I think it was almost like therapy. I have to say it was because I now look back and I realize, oh man, I was grieving that whole time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you believe that actually helped your process in terms of going through all of the stages?
100%.
Like,
You know
yeah.
what was so cool was after I had the story written, so here's what I did. I put together all of like my memories as much as I could. And
Hmm.
then I thought I should write a book. So then, I put together the book. And then I had a script, right? But I needed illustrations because I didn't know how to, color, or I didn't have the
Yeah.
art part of me. And I tried, but that wasn't going to work. So I outsourced the
The
illustrations. And
illustration.
I
Mhm.
tried with like multiple different avenues and they just never fit. They weren't quite right. And I think that helps when you're not on a timeline, because had I probably been on a timeline, it wouldn't have looked like what I really wanted it to look like. It took me
Mm,
several different people and different, because I didn't know what I wanted it to look like either. I
okay.
had pictures in my head, but when you just don't know. And I think that was
Yeah.
part of the most creative process I've ever had in my life, was being able to say, this one kind of fits. I kind of like that. And giving myself the opportunity to do that. So it took me the longest to find the illustrator that I liked. I gave him what I wanted kind of in my head. And when he came back with the first sketch, it was like, oh, I knew it. I knew it as soon as I saw it. And then the other piece to the book is I was able to give him pictures of what I wanted it to look like. So the actual pictures of the book are
Oh.
not me and my grandpa. It's my dad and my daughter, because they
Oh,
have a
wow.
really good relationship. Yeah. So the pictures in the book are actually a depiction of the good relationship that my daughter and my dad have as grandpa and granddaughter as well. But the story is about me and my grandpa. So
That's great though. Like that's a nice little cheat code. I love that.
because
That's
again, the
really
book wasn't for other people, right? The book was kind of for me and my
yeah,
family. So I felt like,
yeah.
and this is the cool thing when I talk about the book, I tell people, when you're an author, you can do whatever you want. You
You know what I'm saying?
can do whatever your little heart desires. It's your book.
It's your book. It's your book. Obviously, on the legal side, get permission if you're using
Yeah, yeah,
people's
yeah,
likeness.
yeah.
But I like in your case, it was primarily for the family.
Yeah.
Have you, to that point though, have you chosen to go beyond the family with it, or you've
Yeah,
chosen to
so what
keep
ended
it?
up happening was I put it on, and again, you spend time. This is why it took some time for me to figure out what I wanted, because then it's
Hmm.
like, do you want to do a Kindle version? Do you want to do are you going to print it? Are you going to give it away? Are you going to do a digital? Are you going to, what do you want to do? And I was a little overwhelmed, and I thought, I just will find a reputable source. So I put it on Barnes and Noble. I made it in their format, which again, you have to research, you have to figure out how to do all that. And when I published it, way more people than my family resonated with it. I thought that was the probably most wonderful part of this whole experience, was that when I published the book about my grandpa, and I just kind of shared a quick story on, hey, this is about this. It resonated with so many people who have or have had a good relationship with a family member who maybe has already passed. And the memory of keeping that person alive, or just the little snippets, I didn't realize that was going to resonate with other people. I just thought it's just for me and my family. But, I've got speaking engagements at elementary schools, and it has been so nice to talk about my grandpa with other people. I just have gotten so healed, from all of it, from that book. It's brought me so much joy.
Well said. And this is what I like to, impress upon those who watch and listen to the podcast. Like, finding healing through writing a book is indeed possible. And you're a great example of it. Like, you found healing through the writing process of it, because you were recording stuff, you were making
Mhm.
sure that he wasn't forgotten. And then you're like, oh wait, like this is actually benefiting other people. Like this is awesome. So
Yeah.
there's that added level of service that is gratifying beyond measure, that we sometimes forget about, or like it never crosses our minds as authors, because we're kind of looking at whatever it is that we're dealing with, whether a transition or a trauma or a loss.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
I have
that.
chills as we're talking about it right now. I'm like, literally, because anytime I get to talk about him, I'm like, this is beautiful. I love talking about my grandpa. And I wrote it for kids. And so I'll present it to kids, and we're talking, and I'm going, hey, do you guys, does your grandma do this? Does your grandpa do this kind of thing? And it was funny because the pieces that I had put in my book, people would giggle and laugh and they'd say, "Oh my God, mine too." And I thought that was just me. I didn't realize it was a universal grandparent, grandchild thing. And I've
Yep.
got more adults that'll come and say, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll say, "Oh," and I hear stories of people and their loved one, and they'll say, "One time, and oh, and my used to, and my does," and I'm like, "This is so sweet."
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, talk a little, first of all, let's let our audience know the title of your book. What is it called?
The title of my book is called Vanessa and Grandpa, a grandpa for everyone.
Oh, I love the grandpa for everyone. That's cute.
Mhm.
And then you were able to see that for yourself when you started
Yeah, and the
sharing
story
those
is
stories.
simple. It was just me and my grandpa. We'd hang out a lot when I was younger. I'd go visit him. He always lived on his own, and so he had all these friends, right? And they'd sit on the porch, and we'd go do grocery shopping, whatever he did with him. And like those pieces, I didn't realize were the universal pieces. Like, oh, my grandpa has a ton of friends at the grocery store every time we go. Those are kind of funny pieces that I had no. I was like, oh, do you too? Because everywhere we went, hey, stop, 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 say hi to everyone, and so that's what I remember. So I put that in the book, right? I'm young in the book. I'm little again. I'm back into the young, and he used to ride his bike everywhere. So he put me on the back of the bike, and we would just go places, right? And again, this is a younger, healthier version of my grandpa. So in my book, I wanted to remember that piece of my grandpa. But whenever we came back, we'd tell stories, and I said, my grandpa would tell me the same stories over and over. I got to hear the same one. So again, that's another funny piece that people go, "Oh yeah, me too. I hear the same all the time. It's the same stories." And I it's the pieces that you don't understand are going to resonate with other people because we're people. We're just people, right? And a lot of us share those common experiences. And so, when I wrap up the book, me leaving, and that was always a heartbreaking piece for me, especially as he got more sick. I never knew if I was going to come back to see him, if he was going to be okay when I came back, because he was just so much more sick as he got older. But it always broke my heart to leave him because we spent such a good time together, and he was so happy to see me. It was hard to leave every time. And so that's kind of that end of the book of like, si Dios quiere. And so like his little pieces, and I have some Spanish pieces in there as well, obviously, because my grandpa spoke primarily Spanish. So obviously that resonates with my Hispanic population, just the common phrases or verses that we use just within our culture, right? Like the blessing before you go is a big one for the Hispanic community. So, and I got
Yeah.
it every time I left. He always blessed me before I left. So yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I'll tell you, it's not limited to, Hispanic culture either. Like it might be a Caribbean. It might just be like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes, I
black and
do.
brown. I don't know.
Yeah, I always say brown people. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, because I can say like in Caribbean culture, that's a common thing as well. I'm Jamaican specifically, but yeah, like my grandparents used to do that with us. And my grandma on my dad's side, like dedicated. Okay. Like she had her olive oil. That was her holy oil. She would
Yeah,
rub your head, make
yeah,
sure she prayed over you, like all the things like before you
yeah.
left. So absolutely. I resonate with that too. That's adorable. And
Yeah,
what's,
and I found that it brings people together. One of the questions I have as I've learned to kind of go out and share my story with others is I put together some lesson plans, for example, for the K2 classrooms, and so they can
mhm.
continue to learn from the book. But it's like, who's your special person, right? We all have a special person in our lives, and is there
Yeah.
someone special that you would like to just sit on the couch with, or go to the grocery store with, or just go for a walk? We all have someone that we don't care what we're doing. We just want to hang out with that person, right? And to me, that was my grandfather, was my special person that I just wanted to see.
Yeah. That's powerful. And do you in your college with your college students now, do you also ask them that question? Like, have you given them that as a prompt to kind of help them come out of their shell a little bit?
It was really cool when I started the quarter. I made sure that they knew who I was, because I felt like if you know who your professor is as a person, you can relate, you can share more things. And then I also wanted them to know I was like, for real. I want you to know that I want to help you. And so I brought in my book. I had a children's literature class, is one of the ones I was teaching. Yeah, that was so cool. And so I brought in my book. I said, you can do all these things. Look at how hard it's been for me. Here's all the stuff I've done. And it's been hard, I promise. But look how cool you could do this too. And I did, do the whole short lesson with them and say, when you become a teacher, you can do all these cool things too. You can share this with your students. You can give them hope and, aspire to cool things.
That's amazing. I like that you actually brought the book to class.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
here, like y'all can do this too. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
because again, you can resonate with it, right? So I'm modeling also. So part of what I'm doing is
Exactly.
I'm teaching them how to teach, right? So I'm
Yeah.
teaching them all the strategies using the book. It's been very neat, and how aligned it's been for me too, where I can say, okay, now I'm reading and now I'm doing this, and how now I stop and ask a question, and I'm teaching them how to teach using the book.
Beautiful. You mentioned that you use the book or you've gotten speaking engagements as a result of the book. Are those opportunities coming organically, or are you like researching organizations and pitching them, researching different schools and pitching them? Like, what is your process for that?
Both, because I didn't plan on doing anything. I actually didn't start doing anything with the book until about a year later. I published it and I had some sales and I didn't think much of it. But I do have a little like a wish list, right? Like a, if I could maybe. So one of them was Grandparents' Day, right? I know that that's a thing across, right? And then the other thing I knew from working in schools is, they do a lot of like donuts with dad, muffins with mom, all these sort of, like you could plug yourself in there. So I started pitching just myself. Hey, I've got this book. I have some lesson plans attached to it. I would love to come share my book with you at one of your events, so to speak. And that got me into a couple of schools, which was awesome because during the holidays, it's nice, right, to have someone just come in and read. Teachers would be happy to have you come in and do something in their classroom for an hour so they can have a break. So that's an easy way of doing it. Yep. And then the other thing I did was I researched grants locally. And I knew that because I put some multicultural, diverse, stuff in my book, that it could be part of one of those grants, right? So um, I don't know how much there is going on right now. I know politically it's less and less, but there are still some districts and organizations that have money for diversity in the classroom with books. I'm sure you know that. But that's kind of what I did. I called one of the educational service districts and I said, "Hey, I've got this. This will fit." And they brought me in as like a big speaker for their school. It was a K-2 school. So the whole school was like 8 years old and below. It was
Wow.
like 500 kids. And they bought a whole bunch of, I just pitched, I said, you can buy this many or you can buy this many. And I seriously, I had no experience doing this. I just thought, let's try it. And they just said, yeah, we'll buy that big chunk of books and come on in. And I was signing autographs and, it was the cutest thing I've ever done. But yeah, they were really happy. I mean, I was, paraded around the whole school and I did a bunch of read alouds for everyone. And they had all this special, like a muffins with grandparent morning. It was
Oh, that's beautiful.
amazing.
Beautiful. And you speak to something that I've touched on not only in the show, but also in my author trainings that I do is the use of a non-traditional holiday calendar. Like
Mm,
Grandparents' Day is a non-traditional holiday, y'all.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not like a Veterans Day or Memorial where it's like federal. Like this is something very niche, like very, very specific. So I love that you were able to leverage the power of that and like include your book, the context of your book into it to be able to like get it in the hands of other people,
Yeah.
particularly kids. Like I love that. I love, being able to
Yeah, and it was
sign
funny
autographs.
because it was the librarians in both situations that were the ones that brought me in. So that, that's kind of all been new learning. This is all new to me. I haven't had like a blueprint or anyone that I follow that has done something this way. So it's all been just kind of raw me researching. And again, I think it goes back to my passion. If I wasn't so passionate about the book or the content, I don't think I would try so hard. But over time, it's kind of grown organically because I pick it back up every time something, and then I'll go, I should do something else with this. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the way it's worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing because you're exploring, like you're learning as you're going along, and you're unique in that you don't have a rigid timeline for any of this. Like you're simply organically learning the process,
Hmm.
which I think is advantageous for you because it at that point it doesn't feel stressful. You're not, you know what I mean? There's nothing uncomfortable about the process for you
Nothing.
because you're doing it organically, which is good. One thing I've learned, and that could be beneficial for you and anybody else that's listening, is not only to your point about the librarians, like researching literary societies,
Hmm.
researching libraries, like not just libraries that are connected to schools, but even just branch libraries. Like you who are listening and watching, like if you're an author already, you already have your book done and you need places to market it or opportunities to speak on it. Public libraries in your region, like not even just in your one city, but like spread out a little bit. You can research those because they always offer free conference rooms. Like you can do a workshop with very little overhead. And when you create those relationships, even they might be familiar with book related events that are coming up that could benefit you. So different literary festivals. You can research the festivals yourself, of course, but like that's an angle, a literary festival, researching libraries, researching literary societies, pitching schools if that is your audience, like if that's the audience for your book. Those are all ideas that can help.
And I think schools for me was easy because I was already kind of in there. And, interestingly enough, I didn't really pitch the schools I was at. I was a principal when I published the book. And so naturally, some of those teachers wanted me to come in. But again, going back to the multicultural piece, um, I've got a lot of traction there as well. So I think you're right about the niche piece is being very succinct in who you're pitching and why you're pitching them. I think is a good idea because some people really need that, right? I'll give you an example. I'm a brown author. I'm a brown local author for some of these places, right? That's very different here. So there are some people that are very interested in having that showcased within their school context, right? Um, and the other piece that I was thinking as you were talking was the grant piece required the lesson plan. So, something to think about when you are providing the book, or not, not just the book, but hey, I have the book and I have the piece that you need for the grant together, and here you go. Or I can do that. I said I had it ready when I was pitching the gal, and I didn't have it ready, but I knew I could make one in 5 minutes, and
Nice.
so that's kind of the stuff that is the sales piece you have to have.
I love that. I love that. Like the faith was there. Like I ain't got it right now, but I'm like, I
Yeah, I'll
got
have
you.
it for you as soon as I get there.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, and to your point about the grant thing, what separates grants from any other like funding source or credibility source? Because let's be real, like if you're an author and you win a grant, that's a huge bit of credibility to have behind you. The difference with grants is grants are typically grant funders are usually focused on what advantage, what impact can you provide long term, which is why your lesson plan was so crucial with that, because that's something that's repeatable. That's something that they could take to schools or different programs and repeat. So if you who are listening or watching are considering something like that for your book, make sure you're building something around the book that is
Mhm.
repeatable, something that's tangible and can have long-term impact. So I wanted to highlight that for them for in terms of what you did,
Yeah,
Amalia.
that's
So that was,
great.
was really awesome.
I wanted that piece, obviously, but the other piece I made was I went ahead and I made a 1 day lesson plan and a week long lesson plan because I also have thought, again, remember I do this organically. So I have more plans for the book. So I'll give you an example. The lesson plan, I've already done it. I did it one time. It's done. I never have to do it again. So now I can take it and I can upload it to the teacher pay sites. I can attach it to the back of my book if I want to. And the book can be a book that goes into the classroom with the teacher, any teacher, all of the thousands of teachers in the world, right? And they can teach from this book for a whole week if they want to. And with lesson plans already provided and made and pre-done for them, they don't have to think about it. It's already done for them. So if I make it affordable, right? If I sell a package of it to a school or to a district, then that's kind of where my mind was thinking. How easy could it be for them to take this and share it?
Yeah, that absolutely. And to your point about the multicultural piece, did you translate it into Spanish, like complete Spanish?
I have it, but I haven't published the Spanish version yet. And the Spanish version is even better than the English. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a whole other completely separate audience that is available to you and in other countries. Like once you translate it, like once you publish it, because you said you translated it already. Yeah, that's a whole other dynamic that you'll have available to you. So definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited for that version. I haven't done that, but maybe that's my holiday thing. See?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'll go even further, like further and farther, both words, with the Spanish, because that's going back home, from, your family's place of origin and going to other Spanish speaking countries where it'll really resonate. Like that's going to be.
Yeah. And even as we're speaking right now, I have two versions of the book, right? One of them is published. The other one can easily just with a click of a button, right? But as I'm speaking to you, why not put them together and just do English in the front, Spanish in the back or something like that? Now they're together. Yeah, a lot easier, right? So that's the kind of stuff that when I say I do this kind of organically and just, it's no pressure, but it's something that because I want my story out there. I've seen it do really well with kids and adults alike. It's a great story. So why not make it easier for people to have that story?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we know we're going to see this book in Spanish, whether English on the front, Spanish on the back, or separately, which I love the bilingual version. I love that because then it gives the opportunity for the folks that are exclusively English speakers, if they're so adventurous, they can learn Spanish in that sort of organic way. Like, oh, this word means this, you know what I mean? Like in that tangible sense, which also low key like sprinkles the teacher thing. Like it kind of like,
which is why I think about it in a classroom, right? If I had a bilingual classroom, this would be perfect. Yeah, I could give it to my students. They could read it, and then they can read it in Spanish if they need to for context, whatever that needs to look like. If I'm supposed to be teaching in English that week, there's a lot of dual language classrooms now where they do one or the other. This would work both ways.
Absolutely. So I'll put some links in the description in terms of the episode where I talked about going beyond Amazon, like publishing internationally. And then, of course, for you, Amalia, I'll make sure to send you that so you can take a look at those resources as well. So you can get that ball rolling too. Cause the publishing world is way bigger than Amazon. Amazon is the Google for books, but there are plenty of other options too. So
yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. So let our audience know where they can get a copy of the book, where they can learn more about you and connect with you.
Sure. So I'm primarily on LinkedIn. That's where my cool new status is. But my name is Amalia Delamora, so it's easy to find. And my book is on barnesandnoble.com. So you can just click it and order it. It's really simple. I made it very affordable. So thank you.
Absolutely. And then remind our audience the book's title one more time.
Sure. The book is Vanessa and Me, A Grandpa for Everyone. Actually, let me grab it. That's my dad.
Yay! I love that. Awesome.
Written by Amalia Delamora. That's a very simple way of finding it. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you in both ways, sharing your story on this interview and also your story through the book. Thank you for sharing your story with us and for being a blessing, man. Like that's a legacy piece that is going to cause ripples and already has across generations. So
Yeah,
definitely
thank you.
continue being great, and especially in academia, like we definitely need better teachers, more compassionate teachers, and teachers with grit. Because man, God bless you. That's a whole other conversation. I gotta bring you back on just to have that conversation, the
Yeah.
academia conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Because
I'm really happy to
yeah,
share the book information and any of that, if it can help anyone, only because it's been such a blessing to me. Being able to speak about my grandpa has been just wonderful. And it's something that was so unexpected. I had no idea that it was going to be so good for me doing it. So, my encouragement is if you have something that you want to share, I think everyone has something special to share it because that will resonate with people. And you don't know who you will affect, right?
exactly. Exactly. Very well said. Well, Amalia, thank you so much for coming on the Getting the Win show. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
That was awesome, right? This is great for a part one. So as promised, stay tuned next week for part two, the latter half of the interview and the brief sneak peek at the cover of the amazing children's book that she's got. I hope you learned some great and beneficial lessons from part one so far. There are definitely some great gems in part two. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube at Getting the Win. You can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. You can find me on TikTok at Melissa T. Writes. That's Melissa with 2 L's and 2 S's. You can find the show on Spotify. If you're an audiophile, just look up the Getting the Win Show on Spotify. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn at Melissa Thomas, Melissa with 2 L's and 2 S's. All right. But in the meantime, in between time, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.